lot of work in immersive technology and spatial technologies. And, there's a lot of talk about, these wayfinding solutions that are going to be on your glasses and they'll show you lines on the ground and all that kind of stuff. But that relies on certain technologies to be in place. And so I want to go back to a comment that you made about inside is more challenging than outside and the technologies that are involved. So there's sort of two things that you touched on that I think are important to explore. And one is that the technologies are different to do interior wayfinding, navigation, and orientation. And also that there needs to be the will by companies and organizations to do that. So can you talk a little bit about sort of both those challenges? Maybe we'll explore both those challenges. So start with what makes it so challenging for interior wayfinding and orientation.
Well, great point. I'm glad you brought it up. I think that the biggest problem isn't with the technology. It might be surprising by itself, but again, with the motivation or drive behind it. I always say that when I had opportunities to talk that technology is already accessible, but we as society aren't enough. We as society aren't accessible as we can be. But I'll start with the technology and then go to that. I think the even bigger picture there. With the technology, we're thinking about interior places and wayfinding in general. So you need to basically have two main components. One is the mapping, which is a challenge by itself because it's not available as it is outside. With whatever Google Maps or OpenStreetMaps or other databases. Indoors, you need to have some sort of collaboration with the facility that has that. Otherwise, you need to map it somehow. So that's the mapping component is a challenge. Not always it's available. You think about old buildings, or not always it's accurate because it's been done. There's different challenges with the mapping itself, and then the second challenge is the positioning. So assuming we do have a great map of the building, now we need to know exactly where you are in the building, because in order to tell you if to go right or to go left. By the way, when offering a navigation experience, that's become even a bigger challenge because now it's really critical that we know exactly where you are very accurately. Back to the orientation aspect, well, as long as you're around the entrance area, well, guess what? You're still at the entrance area. It doesn't really matter if you're one step to the right or one step to the left. You're still at the entrance, right? So that's part of the challenges, I would say, or the biggest challenge with indoor. And again, once you have the mapping and positioning, then it's become also the challenge of building the algorithm behind it that was maintained. But in routing, you need to go from A to B, and then from A to C, and then from B to C, and then from B to A. Like there's a lot of routing going on. This was just 3 points at the building. Think about 100. Like it's just so much. But I think the bigger picture, or the biggest challenge, is actually not from the technological standpoint. It's from the drive and the motivation behind, and the economics. That's kind of part of it, right? In my opinion, as I said before, I think that's people's right first and foremost. People has the right to access independently everywhere. Period. Right? That's why we have ramps everywhere we go. Think about it. It's not just to improve our customer experience for people with using wheelchair. It's because it's the law, and it's the law because we want to provide equal experience. We want to provide equality and inclusion. I believe personally that it's just a matter of time until our industry will realize that it's like a requirement. When looking into the Braille signs we mentioned earlier, the reason they're out there is because of the ADA. And when reading the ADA, you realize that the goal is to provide effective communication. And hold on, is it effective? So that's the type of questions that now is started to be asked. And I believe just a matter of time until the awareness behind it or around it will increase. As of today, I think most of our partners work with us. Some of them work because of their interest to improve their ADA compliance, for sure. Others truly do that because they care and they want to provide really a better inclusive experience at their facilities. Some are doing that from an image standpoint or a marketing standpoint. At the beginning, I must say, I really hated that. Today, I feel like, well, as long as they're doing the right thing, I don't really care what their motivations are. And there are even cases where we help them save money. And you can think about places where if someone from their staff need to guide and ask the person who's blind around the facility, the campus or airport or whatever that is, that's dollars that we can save you if you allow them to do it independently.
I agree. I mean, so many assistive technologies, so many technologies, as you say, the technology is the easy part. the will to implement the technology is the challenge, and for different reasons.
From a facility standpoint, I hope that businesses will start to realize that accessibility is not a feature, it's people's right.
Yeah. And I think if you don't have a mobility challenge or a vision or a hearing impairment, it's hard to understand that perspective. I think there needs to be more awareness around that so people can understand that right to freedom, that right to be able to have an accessible environment without a barrier-free environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I want to add one more point in here. You know, Tyler, because you were asking about the technology and the different challenges there. One of the things I hearing myself saying again and again since 2017 and 18, because there's been a lot of discussion. Oh, should it be with the beacons, without beacons? Should it be with LiDAR, without LiDAR? Should it be this way, but it should be standard? One thing I always say that I can almost guarantee is that technology will continue to evolve. Like today is this technology, tomorrow is that technology. Like we see what's happening with AI. We might talk about it also later, but technology will continue to evolve. What won't change is the need behind it and the fact that it's the right. And therefore, I think what's important, at least in our thinking, is making sure that the principles behind this technology are the right principles. So for example, privacy. In our case, the app is completely private. There's no sign in. Like we don't know who our users are, which is a huge challenge for us as developers. We don't know what, like nothing. There's no sign in the app. So we don't, like, all of you are downloading the app, please do that. We won't know you're doing that. Like we have no idea from where and what age and what. So privacy is one, independence, meaning that it has to be with no human in the loop. It's completely independent. You're doing it by yourself. That's it. Nobody is in that loop. I think that's, again, a principle that's important to us in order to provide this, again, sense of freedom that you've done it by yourself. Thirdly is the fact that it should be completely free to the end user. I mentioned the ramp before. Tyler, you see a lot of things. Have you ever seen a person in a wheelchair paying for a ramp?
I hope never to.
No. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I don't think that people need to pay for the world to be accessible. It's our duty as society. So it's 100% free and anonymous, again, for our users. Always has been, always will be. It has to be, again, and that's also, I think, accessibility. Giving it out for free, it's part of accessibility, like financial accessibility. It's both platform because it's important, because, again, we want to provide it to everyone in as many languages as possible. So yeah, I mean, these type, and we have more, but this is, I think, some of the main principles that when looking or thinking about what type of solution to use as a user or to install as a facility, to look at.